Hello, my name is Steve Pereira and you're watching Quedia on Ben TV, where we explore all things queer and anything media. Welcome to part 2 of our interview with publishing sensation C.S. Pacat, whose novel The Captive Prince, the first of a trilogy, has attracted millions of hits. Here to talk about the book is C.S. Pacat. Hello, Catherine. Welcome back to Ben
thank
TV.
You.
Thanks for sticking with us. The Captive Prince, this fabulous book. The genre, historical romance, sexy romance, pornography? Which category?
I'll take it. I'll take them all.
Take it all.
Yeah.
I have to say, I read the first 3 chapters because I got this fairly late, but it was fascinating.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Very sexy read.
Yeah.
So tell us about it. How did you arrive at this?
I really wanted to write the book that I wanted to read. I like high-octane escapism, you know, chases and escapes and adventure and romance and true love, all that stuff. But I'm also really interested in, you know, sex and power and sexuality and homoerotica. So I wanted a book that contained all of those elements.
Sex and power and homoeroticism seems always to end up in some sort of S&M type slave scenario type things.
Not always.
Not always, but I keep harking back to we were talking earlier about Anne Rice.
Yeah. And
some of the resonances that come through. Who were your influences? Who influenced you in this?
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Anne Rice. As we were saying, when I was growing up in the 90s, in genre fiction, she was one of the few writers that her books kind of did have a queer sensibility. I think at that time, especially if you were more interested in genre than realist fiction, it was possible to exhaust kind of the LGBT lexicon very quickly. You could literally read all the books that there were and then be left kind of waiting for something else. So I guess she was one of my childhood influences.
And tied in through, there's a lot of mythology, because this is kind of a historical romance type genre as well. And there's a lot of sort of historical Greek mythology antecedents in there, and some of the names and the places and the characters. How much of that is a carry through? Was that intentional?
I'm really interested in classical Greek culture. I love the way that they mythologize their own heroes. I love the epic storytelling that comes out of that era. I think, as well as all of that, ancient Greece is kind of a touchstone where we all understand about that culture, that they constructed sexuality very differently to the way that we do ourselves. So when we think about ancient Greece, we understand that, you know, while sexual attraction is innate, the way that people construct sexuality across cultures, you know, that's not transhistoric. That's something that changes across time and dependent on different cultures. So I think that in a way that becomes kind of a way of expressing to the reader, or we're going now into a story that might have different sexual norms, might be a bit more homonormative.
We seem to be at a time now, we got Vikings, Game of Thrones, and there's all this mythologized escapism. Yeah. Which is both forward-thinking, it's that it's fairly futuristic, at the same time that it is very historical, and it's based in all-time mythologies, whether Norse mythology, Greek mythology, Roman mythology. Why do you reckon that is? What's with us in our modern, what's part of a modern condition that we require that kind of mythologizing?
Oh, that's really interesting. I think that makes me think of some of the commentary by Bell Hooks when she says that pop culture is where the pedagogy happens. But I think that pop culture can also be the place where we mythologize ourselves, where we kind of create mythic versions of ourselves. And so I think that's what you often find in those kind of epic genre pieces. That's why we are drawn to them. And that's where we're kind of doing that sort of storytelling at the moment.
What are we escaping from, though?
Oh, interesting question. I think that, you know, I really enjoy literary kind of realist fiction, but I think that realism is only good at, or is best at telling stories within a certain bandwidth of experience. And that when it comes to the extremes of experience, realism kind of breaks down because extremes are never quite plausible in a realist setting, you know. So I think that when we want to explore those kinds of themes, perhaps that's when we push more in towards genre.
So the zeitgeist of the moment is exploring our subconscious yearnings for something.
Yeah, possibly. Very possibly.
That's also something really interesting about ourselves, isn't it? The fact that we can't, that what's real is a bit too difficult to handle, and so there's this one reading of it. So there's an escape to mythologizing. But what's fascinating is that we're not creating a forward-thinking mythology, but we're looking backwards, not backwards, but we're looking towards the past as the source of some sort of answers. Is there an answer there?
You know, I think that when we look at the past, I mean, it's, you know, as a woman or perhaps as if, you know, as a queer person or as a member of any minority, sometimes it can be a bit difficult to nostalgize the past because the past can feel hostile. But I think I'm interested in kind of creating imaginative landscapes that don't have that exclusionary feeling, that perhaps are a little bit more diverse or are exploring themes and ideas that perhaps we haven't seen explored as much within that genre.
Who for you is your favourite character in this? In the book?
Gosh, don't make me choose a favourite.
Oh, come on. I have one already. I haven't even finished reading the book.
Oh, who is yours? Can I ask?
I think it's Damon.
Oh, right. You're a Damon, Team Damon.
I'm assuming that just because he's fabulously good looking. Anyway. But
That's
yeah.
an excellent reason.
But also because he's the central hero and he's the underdog.
Right.
And he's the one who's hard done by.
Yeah.
And he is fantastically built. Your descriptions of him are amazing. But who would you identify with?
Gosh, I don't think that I can choose between either of like our heroes. But of the minor characters, I think probably my favourites are Nikai's and your cast, I think, those two.
And where does it go from here? What happens to the third of the novels? Is there a conclusion to the whole?
Yeah, the third book is the conclusion to the trilogy. So hopefully that will be a satisfying endpoint for readers.
And your next project, is it going to be along the similar lines? So do you know what you're going to be writing on next?
Yeah, I do have a mini project coming up that I can't reveal too many details about, but that is, how can I put it, Captive Prince adjacent. And I'll be working on that, and then I think it's on to my next series.
Do you know what the next series is?
Yes, I do know what it is, but I'm hesitant to talk about it at this early stage.
You've got a developing fan base. Yeah, now's the time to drop hints.
It will probably be young adult genre, but that's as much as I'll say right now.
Sweet. Who do you think? Who's your reader for this?
The reader base is actually really diverse. That's what I found. So, because the book has so far only been in the online space, it's kind of tended to be kind of more internet savvy, internet savvy people. But we'll see what happens on April the 7th when the book is released in bookstores.
April the 7th, you've heard it here first. That's when this fabulous book is going to be available at your bookstore. Go and buy it. It's a fantastic read. Thank you, Catherine, C.S. Pacat, for joining us on Ben TV. And please get onto our website where C.S. Pacat reads from a fabulous first copy of The Captive Prince. bentv.org.au. Watch it now. Thank you and good night.